So today is going to be one of those videos where we kind of just wrap up everything that's been happening over the past couple weeks, because I don't think there's really much to say on each of them to fill up an entire video, and I mean they're annoying enough for me to want to talk about them anyway. So the first thing is about Brianna Wu, and before you say anything, yes, Brianna Wu is a scumbag is going to be a video that will come out at some point, so if you want anything in particular to be in that video, on Twitter you can just send me stuff. Like, people have been sending me tweets that she made and stuff like that, so you can just do that as well. So she's been basically going around, as she puts it, trying to investigate gaming and, you know, shut down gaming or whatever the fuck is going on. She recently targeted Nolan Bushnell, who is a creator of Atari, if you didn't know. She's been making allegations that he's this weird sexual harasser and he's a really horrible person, and that he just had sex with all these women and threw them aside and then named video games after them as like cruel jokes or trophies or something, just all of this weird shit. And she wrote an article about it, and she has just been going on this weird crusade saying all these things, and then these women came forward, and this is kind of a common theme, you know, women coming forward and saying, no, this isn't actually the case, but then them either being ignored or being called some sort of internalized misogynist for just speaking their mind. But then Lonnie Reader, one of the women who worked with him, came forward and made this really long post, and it is quite long, but it has a lot of information that's pretty relevant, so I'm going to read through the whole thing. So let's take a step back and look at the overall situation. It started with a 38-year-old disgruntled uber-feminist woman game designer from Massachusetts running for Congress who had a less than stellar experience in the predominantly male-dominated video game space, resulting in what came to be known as Gamergate. Using the Me Too movement and a moment in time from which she had no first-hand knowledge, and with zero complaints lodged against Nolan or complaints about the work culture by employees working at Atari during that time, and based on archival newspaper and magazine interviews with Nolan and others chatting about the work environment, time and culture that existed 40 years ago, so this is in the 1970s, a work environment everyone, men and women, happily worked in together and partied in together or didn't party, and there was no pressure or judgment. An environment that has resulted in decades-long friendships, marriages, little Atarians, business partnerships, and frequent reunions, providing us with amazing memories, and for most of us, spending the rest of our work careers attempting to replicate the magic of the Camelot that we are lucky enough to work at. By arming herself with the topical movement and being personally disgruntled and offended by an environment existing 40 years ago which she played no part in, an environment she had zero first-hand knowledge of, and intimidating those of us who worked around or with Nolan, Al Elkin, the Jeans, Lipkin and Landrum, Joe Keenan, Steve Risto, and the rest of the Mahogany Row had been sexually assaulted, abused, and disrespected by, in her estimation, abominations to the male species. Yes, based on her political aspirations, personal assumptions, and libelous accusations against a man where no complaints have been raised or filed, she made a big unfounded noise against Nolan, and the Pioneer Award honor has been withdrawn. So yeah, he lost an award, even though he was really an important part of just what we see as gaming in total. Like, he and the people he worked with basically did so much for gaming, and yet is because some people got offended and made some allegations, he's no longer able to receive this award that he really deserves so much. Atari was a large corporation with many facilities, but I worked in corporate headquarters, interface with every department in the company as part of communications, security, and facilities groups. And in being adopted by the Coin Op and industrial design groups, I spent a great deal of time in the engineering hot tub building, which would be two locations where most of the fun and craziness occurred. From my vantage point and having a first-person perspective of this time in the Atari environment, what has been done to Nolan is falsely mischaracterizing him for a lifestyle that did no harm or wrong to anyone. Nolan created a company environment which opened the doors to many women in the field where they were never included before. High tech. Nolan never discriminated on any level and gave everyone a chance to prove on their own merits that they could be part of Atari. From soldering boards to building arcade cabinets, drawing schematics, and artwork to working on the assembly line. For me personally, Nolan was the final word in me being hired at Atari, my first full-time job after college. He continued his belief in me years later, when we co-founded U Inc. in Los Angeles, where I became an equally compensated vice president. Nolan never profiled a person by their gender as to whether or not they were fit for their job. He based his decision on the person's skill, ability, and passion for the job. Because of that belief, we always rose to the occasion. We were a bonded teamship and a family. Atari also saw a woman, the amazing Carol Shaw, go on to fame. For me, and I'm sure for other women who will weigh in, while the feminazi congresswoman wannabe may believe she is doing Atari womankind a favor, in reality she has done us a disservice by creating victims where there are none. Personally, I am extremely angered by her words and conduct in this matter, not just for Nolan but for women of Atari, all of us. We all were and remain to this day extremely strong and intelligent women. And there isn't any man who could dare take advantage of us, not if they intended to procreate in the future. My other anger is the callous and unnecessary hurt I'm sure this matter has afflicted on Nancy and their kids and grandkids. Finally, by not doing their due diligence before terminating the honor, the GDC did a disservice to Nolan, to my fellow Atarians, to the truth. Nolan is extremely gracious in this matter via his tweet. Hopefully the GDC will right this mishap on their part at some point in the future. So there you have it. Brianna Wu just maliciously decides that she wants to do this because a victim of Gamergate, gaming, oh my god. And her thing about Congress as well, like she's running for Congress and she says that she wants to investigate gaming. She says that she wants to get the FBI involved because of mean comments people left her in Gamergate. Yet at the same time she says that she doesn't pay attention to positive or negative comments and somehow she knows what they are, but as I said, I'm getting ahead of myself and I'm doing a Brianna Wu's a scumbag video to concentrate on all of that. And yes, I will be talking about the moon rocks thing. Them working with him was not a time where they felt like they were being harassed or anything, and, you know, him naming games after people, like, he would name games after people like family members and friends and stuff that he admired or that he liked. It was seen as a compliment. And it's something that a lot of people have done where they just name these things after people in their lives because either, you know, it's a good placeholder for a name or it's something like a tribute. I don't see where this whole thing came from of like, this is nothing but trophies for him. It's just weird, it's out of nowhere, and I'm not surprised by her, what she's doing, but it's just so disappointing to see this happen all the time. It's so frustrating because it feels like, you know how music went through that big thing where people thought of it as satanic and all that, and now some people maybe still do, but they're seen as crazy and everyone accepts that music is a thing. It's basically the same thing that gaming has been going through, because gaming is admittedly a younger kind of platform. But it's so frustrating because it's just like, when is this going to end? This is so absurd. People have shown the studies over and over again that gaming doesn't make people killers, doesn't make them like horrible sexist monsters or anything, so I don't see why this is still around. It's something that I really love, and seeing it just being attacked over and over again by people who don't know what they're talking about is just so frustrating. But I guess you could say that for a lot of things, so we should probably move on. So the Black Panther film, as you probably know, is causing a bit of a stir. And if you've seen that stupid thing on Twitter that apparently, firstly, people want to make sure that all the film reviews are good because this is an important film in history, as if there's never been a black superhero, black hero in film. And the one time somebody does leave a comment just saying that they didn't like the movie because of action reasons, it's suddenly the worst thing ever and somehow amazingly bad, even though there's no mention of race in the review. I don't get it. And honestly, there's kind of two sides to what's annoying me here. So the main point is that people are trying to be overly protective of this film because of the fact that it has a black cast, and for no other reason. It's just because of that. I mean, it's a superhero film. So I'm not saying that it's going to be a bad film because honestly I don't know. It could be a good film. I'm not going to pretend that it's a bad film just because it has all of this controversy around it. Like, that's one of the things that's annoying me. It could just genuinely be a good film. But then it's like, somebody makes this film and then, sure, even if the actors say something that's like social justice or whatever, if the film doesn't reflect that, like if the film's just an ordinary by-the-numbers superhero movie, that's fine. Somebody can enjoy that and not because they're an SJW, so you're gonna get a bunch of people who maybe don't even care about the SJW stuff, liking the film and not really caring, because they didn't notice any of that, and then there's always gonna be a small group of people going after them, calling them an SJW purely because they enjoyed the film, and those are gonna be annoying. And then you're gonna have another group of people who are going to say that they enjoy the film, regardless if they have actually watched it or not, because it's an important film, this ambiguous statement they're gonna talk about because of, oh my god, black people were never in films before this. So then you have that side that is equally annoying. The whole reason that people are probably disliking the film a lot more than they usually would, even if it's just a mediocre film, is because of the hype that people are placing around it. It's making people annoyed because they're sick of having this stuff like shoved down their throats all the time, like, oh my god, this is an important film because minorities and everything. But I don't know, at the end of the day, I think if you want to see it, see it. If you genuinely like it, that's totally fine. If you dislike it, that's totally fine as well. If anybody tries to make you feel bad about whether or not you like the film or hate the film because of some weird virtue signaling or politics reasons, then just ignore them. And if you want to leave a bad review, I am sure that people will find a way to get the bad reviews out there. People make videos about it, you know, even no matter how much that Rotten Tomatoes or anybody else might try to censor that because they think it's hate speech to leave a bad review. If this film is genuinely stupid, or even if it's just mediocre, then people will find out one way or another that it is actually mediocre and not actually this amazing 100% thing that people see on Rotten Tomatoes, for instance. So I think in that regard, even though it's annoying, it'll be fine in the end. So the last thing I want to talk about is grid girls, and this is the least recent in all of the stuff that's happened. Grid girls are women who basically show off the prizes and walk around the winners during races and things like that. And whenever I try to look up an article about them and stuff, people always talk about how scantily clad the grid girls are, but everything that I found could just be like short dresses and things. I don't really count that as scantily clad. I mean, I'd count a bikini as scantily clad, but not this. It's fine. Formula 1 announced that they planned on at least phasing out grid girls in 2018, and I don't think that every single grid girl ever is gonna get like canned or anything, but a fair amount of women lost their jobs. And so the feminists started celebrating because, you know, women values blah blah blah, and you know, you can't have a job, like, even though you want women to make their own choices, you can't actually have a job that they don't like because that's patriarchy or something. And there was this big think of the children argument where it was like, what if my daughter sees that you're wearing stuff that I don't approve of on TV? That's patriarchy. Which one do you think is better, personally? Seeing TV where it has women scientists, women doctors, all of these really smart women, and then it also has really confident women who are grid girls who are walking around loving their job, feeling like maybe this is something that they need because they feel like really pretty or something, because they're taking advantage of the way that they look and making a good job out of it that they enjoy. So a young girl seeing that she can try and go anywhere in life and feel good about herself. Or the other side, where if something is making someone uncomfortable, it immediately gets shut down. So you only have a few things to choose, and you have to either be a certain way or you're not going to be allowed to do anything. Which one do you think is going to be better for young women? Because I think I know. I mean, I read so many of them saying that these women could be scientists and nurses if they want to. Now they can. It's like, I mean, they can, but what if they don't want to? You're basically removing agency from these women while claiming other people are removing agency from them and then telling them, oh, well, now you can actually be a smart woman. In all honesty though, them being able to market their looks and confidence to actually make money is pretty smart, isn't it? Being able to find something that they can basically leverage their personality and their appearance to end up making money off of that. That is what that is. And that's a pretty smart business move, you know? No, apparently they're only a strong woman if they actually do things that you approve of. Now, isn't that interesting? It genuinely pissed me off just because of the amount of women going, look, I just lost my job, I don't know what the fuck to do now. That is genuinely worrying. That actually pissed me off quite a lot because all these people are smugly talking about, oh, you could become a nurse now. Well, I mean, they just lost their job, so how are they supposed to find the money to go and study for those things? You know how patronizing that is? Somebody just lost their job, their livelihood, a job that they genuinely enjoyed because of somebody else's weird, like, moral fagging. And it was just something that made these women feel confident, and now they have to go into something they don't even know yet. They have to figure out their whole job now, they have to figure out their whole lives. All over again after finding somewhere where they could at least, even if they didn't want to keep the job forever, obviously they were just using it while they could go and figure something else out. But now it's like, what are they gonna do? Do people not realize how stupid this is? But really, that's all I have to say about it. I could complain about it over and over again for hours, but, you know, there's no use in that. So, I don't know. So really, that's it for me from now. I'm working on that Brianna who is a scumbag video, should be up next time. And if you're interested on my other channel, I'm gonna make a Courage the Cowardly Dog documentary, and I'm also working on one of those childhood trauma sort of ones where it's like, you know, the shows that scared me as a kid and all that stupid sort of stuff. I think that would be fun as well. With the Courage the Cowardly Dog one, it'll be kind of similar to the Steve Shives one, funnily enough, in the way that you can actually tell me your own experiences. Like what nightmares you had as a kid from which episodes and which villains in the series scared you and all that sort of stuff, if you're a fan of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I can read it out in a segment that I'm doing in the documentary. And for that, I would stress that you can maybe type it out and then like screenshot it on your phone or something and send it to me on Twitter, because last time when I did the Steve Shives one, I had to stop checking that video after a while because everything was just, all the comments were just being lost and buried under other comments, and YouTube was like moving them around and everything. So I don't think I would be able to get everyone's comments in there, but if you gave it to me on Twitter, I would actually be able to see it a lot more, and the chance of me actually reading it and putting it in the video would be a lot higher. Let's look forward to the rest of the year when more stupid stuff's gonna happen.